on the ballot with the Libertarian Party, that you would have a Republican who didn't file, and it would be a predominantly Democrat district. They say, well, we're not even going to bother to put anybody up against this person. And then the Libertarians got on the ballot and ran somebody. And after the deadline was passed, the Republicans say, whoa, wait a minute, we don't want to not be on the ballot. So they would go into the judge and they'd say, well, you know, we missed the deadline and you got all these rules and everything, but can't you just change the rules for us? They would do it every time. They'll never do it for an independent. They'll never do it for a third party, only for the two establishment parties. And that's what we're seeing in the way that they rigged this election for Bernie Sanders. And Trump called him on it. And that's a great thing. And he's going to call him on it if they rig the election. But it hasn't stopped people like Hugh Hewitt calling for them to rig the election. He says, I think the party ought to change the nominee. He thinks still, at this point, got to get rid of Trump at the convention. He's still calling for this kind of underhanded treatment. He said, because we're going to get killed with this nominee. They ought to get together and let the convention decide. How many times are they going to go down this narrative? They never give it up. And look, we need to talk about these delegates, and we need to see they need to understand that they're not going to get away with this. People need to make it clear to them. They still think they can get away with this, these neocons. Who are these delegates? Where do they come from? Who are they loyal to? Think about the Electoral College delegates, for example. Who are these guys? Well, whenever you run, and again, you have to win the state. Remember, Ross Perot got 20% of the popular vote, but he didn't get a single Electoral College delegate because they're awarded on a winner-take-all basis, state by state. And there's a good reason for that, too, folks. We can talk about that some other time. But let's talk about just who these delegates are. When you run as a Republican, as a Democrat, as a third-party candidate, you would submit a list of who your Electoral College delegates are going to be. So like in North Carolina, we had, I think it was 12 congressional districts. So you would get one delegate for each of those congressional districts. I was on the list in case the Libertarian won in North Carolina. And if that had happened, they would have sent 12 people that the party had nominated that were going to be loyal to them. And they would go to the convention. And it's interesting, I think it was back in 1976, they had... the Libertarians had a guy who was a Republican elector. I think he was from California. He was a guy who was a producer of Little House on the Prairie, Roger McBride. He's descended from Laura Ingalls Wilder's and Rose Wilder Lane, who wrote the book. And he went to the Electoral College as a Republican elector. He was supposed to cast a vote, and I guess, who was it in 76? Ford, I think. Anyway, he didn't vote for the Republican. Instead, he cast a vote for the Libertarian Party, and they registered that. Because these people can do that. Now, you're going to be completely exiled from any political activity of that party, of course, forever. That ends all your connection to them. But that's the only penalty. I mean, there's not any law that prevents that. So people can do that even at the Electoral College. And then when you get to the actual GOP convention, as we've seen, they will have these elections and they say, well, Trump got X number of delegates and Cruz got X number of delegates. And then you find out that Cruz goes in and he gets to pick the delegates who are going to go, who are loyal to him, instead of delegates who are loyal to Trump. I mean, it's not done like the Electoral College. It isn't done where you go into each individual state and Trump says, okay, you know, there's 50 delegates that are going to go to the convention. Here's my list of 50 people that I know are going to be loyal to me. And then Cruz comes in with his list and they say, okay, well, you got 30 delegates, Trump. So, you know, which 30 of the 50 that do you want to go? No, they don't do it that way. They hold a separate, secret election. That's the way the Republicans try to rig the election. And so you've got all these guys now who they say they're going to be bound to Trump on the first thing, but, you know, you still got Hugh Hewitt, who maybe he doesn't understand what the process is, but he's still calling on these people to not listen to the voters. Don't listen to the voters. We got a record number of voters who have voted for Donald Trump. He's brought in people who are independents, people who have never voted before, people who are from the other party, the Democrats. But ignore that, because we, the establishment that Hugh Hewitt works for, don't like him. We don't like him. So we're going to throw that out, just as George Will had said in the past. So amazing arrogance continuing to this point where, Trump's got 1,500 or something out of the only 1,200 and so that he needed, hundreds more than he needs. Millions of votes more than they've ever had, and yet it's not good enough for the neocon mouthpieces. And this is what we are up against. And we're also up against Hillary Clinton. And this is going to be interesting. We got a story that's up on Infowars.com. We'll talk about it when we come back. Hillary in 2006 says the U.S. needs a physical barrier to keep U.S. Mexicans out. So we're going to go into that. And then the next segment, we're going to talk about Bilderberg and something called the precariat. Haven't heard that word before, have you? But it's all the rage in Bilderberg. They're worried about this dangerous class of people they've created with their globalism. Stay with us. We'll be right back and tell you what that is. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host in this live fourth hour. We're going to go back to Hillary Clinton, and we have a new exclusive article at Infowars.com from Roger Stone about her university scandal, and it is huge compared to Donald Trump's. Before I get back to that, I want to let you know that we have Living Defense back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com. It has been out of stock for a very long time. We have, as we pointed out on the website, 9 out of 10 people are infested with harmful organisms. Once these organisms have made it in your body, they steal nutrients, they release toxic waste. This is a way to cleanse your body. Living Defense is now back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com. It uses organic herbs and enzymes to help naturally cleanse harmful organisms from the body. Read the reviews at InfoWarsLife.com. See why it sold out so quickly. And again, you can find that back in stock after a very long absence at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, real quickly, as a preface before I talk about this story here, the hypocrisy of Cricket Hillary. And it's nowhere better than in this article here that we've got up at Infowars.com. Hillary in 2006, the U.S. needs physical barrier to keep Mexicans out. But of course, as they point out, it's only racist when Donald Trump says that. And we have it on video. She's speaking to the Council on Foreign Relations in 2006 because they had a different way of handling it back then, right? Now they've embraced open borders, bringing in people to bring down our economy. So now it's all changed. You know, she's gotten a new memo from the CFR, and they're doing it a little bit differently now. But, you know, this was the conventional wisdom of the globalists back then. And Hillary is saying, well, the policies of Mexico are, quote, this is what she says, pushing migration north across our border, unquote. She says we need to, and listen to this, secure our borders. Hillary Clinton actually said, secure our borders. You won't hear her say that in 2016, 10 years later. And she says, and we need to secure our borders with physical barriers. And we need tougher employer sanctions for those who hire illegals. We need to deport those who have committed transgressions. Deport is her word. Committed transgressions, that's something she said. Physical barriers, she said that. But that was 10 years ago. And now, if we see the need for that, if we got a candidate like Donald Trump who sees the need for that, he's racist, and so are we. And, of course, we are going to see a lot of these types of things coming out from the Secret Service people that have worked for her. As we had a caller last night who called in and said she and her other military friends who went to see 13 Hours, a story about Benghazi, were so disturbed by it that they just were speechless as they left the movie, and they huddled together and just prayed outside the movie theater. They're so disturbed by the criminality and the cold, sociopathic attitude of Hillary Clinton and the other people who made those decisions to stand down. And, of course, we've got the Secret Service revelations that are going to be coming out, and we've got an article up on Infowars.com right now, a quote from Ron Kessler, who is an investigative reporter for the Washington Post. Secret Service agent says, good morning to Hillary. She responds to 2 words. Guess what those 2 words are? F off. Can you imagine that? The people who are tasked with laying their lives down to protect you. And you walk out and one of them says, good morning, ma'am. And you say to that person who has pledged to protect your life with his, she responds by saying, F off. That's the Hillary Clinton that the people around her know. That's the Hillary Clinton you're going to know by the time this campaign is out. Because no matter how much the Hugh Hewitts and the Bill O'Reillys want to cover it up, it's going to come out. The truth is going to come out. people who know her are going to talk about this. Now, the exclusive article that we've got on Infowars.com from Roger Stone, and this is very important. It's a very long article. You need to see this article because he lays out the detail. And as Donald Trump said in his speech last night, the Clintons have turned the politics of personal enrichment into an art form for themselves, and they've stolen millions of dollars. He says, I mean hundreds of millions of dollars. Here's one of the ways that they did it. Exclusive. Media ignores Clinton University scandal worse than Trump University. Trump University problems are a skin blemish compared to the Clintons' laureate leprosy. And this is a story from Roger Stone. He said the Clinton Global Initiative joint venture with an organization called Laureate Education, a shaky for-profit chain of schools to create Clinton Global Initiative University, is the final step in an incredible predatory stock deal, because they always do it in a very complicated way. Laureate Education deal used high-pressure boiler room tactics to rack up $750 million of debt on students while running a $457 million debt at the same time Bill Clinton was taking lavish but hidden compensation from Laureate, while Hillary's State Department was lavishing $150 million from the chain of for-profit schools that has a 50% graduation rate, a very high dropout rate. That's an exclusive story up on Infowars.com. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight on this Wednesday, June 8th, 2016. I was just talking about the exclusive story we have at Infowars.com by Roger Stone. Media ignores Clinton University scandal that is worse than Trump University. This is a school where they had the students run up $750 million worth of debt. $750 million worth of debt, high-pressure tactics to get them to enroll in this. Bill Clinton took a lavish salary, and they had a 50% graduation rate. Now, I'm telling you, this isn't because they can't handle the calculus and the math courses here, okay? It's because they can't handle the Clinton calculations of putting them under astronomical debt, okay? I'm sure this is not an academically rigorous standard here. That's not the reason for the high attrition rate. This is a very detailed article. You need to take a look at this, again, exclusively at Infowars.com, an article by Roger Stone, really laying out this Clinton University scandal in detail that we haven't seen before. So this is an article that really needs to go viral. So pass that around, read that, pass that around. We need to get people to understand what a crook these people are. Because we're going to have people like Bill O'Reilly on Fox News saying, don't talk to us about Hillary Clinton being a crook. She can't be a crook. She can't be racist, even though she called for the same policies 10 years ago. Yeah, we need to get a physical barrier. Mexico is driving people into this country. We need sanctions against employers. We need to deport them. All these things that they're saying, that's racist, racist, racist. She was saying them all 10 years ago. And we have the video. You can run, Hillary, but you can't hide. We got a lot of video. It's all over the place. It's starting to surface from some of the more obscure places, like the Council on Foreign Relations, those buddies of yours. So that's going to come out. Now, I want to talk about Bilderberg. When we look at the Bilderberg meeting and what their agenda is, according to Bilderberg, they say it's going to be things like current events. It's kind of vague. We know that's going to be Brexit and the immigration crisis and that sort of thing, because they do talk about Europe, the migration, growth, reform, vision, unity. So, of course, they're going to be talking about Brexit and immigration issues. And then the usual stuff you would expect, like China, Middle East, Russia, U.S. political landscape, the elections, in other words. Cybersecurity, that's been there for a while. Geopolitics of energy, what's going on with oil. This is, of course, you're going to have those things. But then this stuck out, something I hadn't seen before. Number 9, the precariat and the middle class. Precariat. Well, that's a new word to me. I don't really know what that is. So I started looking at it, and it turns out that there is a new book not a new book, but it's something that has really taken them by storm. It actually came out 2 years ago. It's by a London economist, Guy Standing, and the book is titled The Precariat, and the subtitle is The New Dangerous Class. How are they going to control all these people whose lives they have ruined with their globalist policies? They have to understand. Not only, they're not going to directly talk about the Brexit and put that on there, but they need to understand what they have done to people and how they're going to control us. And so he's got a plan for this. And I want to talk about that. Before I do, real quickly, I want to just take a quick look at how the mainstream media is now not only covering Bilderberg, but how they cover it. And I thought it was kind of interesting because there's an article from CNBC, Bilderberg, the world's most powerful flock to an annual secret meeting. Well, one of the reasons it was secret was because outlets like CNBC wouldn't report it. Or places like the Wall Street Journal, even though they would send reporters there. And, of course, we got Peggy Noonan and other people. Bloomberg is